Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today, or me. I'm really happy to kick off the Shopware B2B Future Forum with you. My name is Jurchen, and I'm the product manager for B2B at Shopware. And my role is all about working closely with customers, partners, and internal teams to turn real B2B complexity into scalable product capabilities. Today's session is called the B2B Commerce Wake-Up Call, Why Buyers Expect More in 2026. And over the next roundabout 45 minutes, we will take a very practical look at what's changing, why it matters, and what you actually can do about it. One quick note before we start, the webinar will be completely in English, but if you prefer, you can enable live subtitles in Microsoft Teams at any time. And I think my colleague will also post a short description how to do that. With that, let's get started. Let me quickly walk you through today's agenda so you know what to expect. First, we will start why 2026 will change everything in B2B commerce. This is about the bigger forces that are coming together right now. Then we will look at the new B2B buyer, so what actually changed on buyer side and why this has very concrete consequences for digital commerce, sales, and IT. In the third, I'll share what leading B2B companies are already doing differently today, not in theory, but in practice. And from there, we'll zoom in on 3 core capabilities your commerce setup must have to stay relevant by 2026. Think of this as a practical checklist rather than a technological deep dive. And finally, we'll close with the wake-up call. So what you can realistically do in the next 90 days to build momentum instead of planning endlessly. After that, we will have time for questions and discussions, as I said. So if something comes up during the session, feel free to note it down. But first, we will have a small poll in the chat, so please take a short look, and it would be great if you could give an answer on where is your biggest challenge in B2B commerce today. Answers are coming in, cool. So again, options are buyer self-service and digital experience, automation of processes and workflows, adaptability and speed to change, and managing complexity, so pricing, roles, integrations, data. Okay, so it seems like the winner is managing complexity, pricing, roles, integrations, and data. Great. So hopefully during that session, you will get some insights and some ideas on how to solve that challenge for you. Thank you for answering. Okay, so let's start with the first point, why 2026 is not just another incremental year for B2B commerce. For a long time, B2B digital transformation has been about gradual improvement. Another feature, another integration, another portal. But 2026, from my perspective, is different. It's the moment where 3 forces collide. First, digital expectations. From the buyer's perspective, digital is no longer a channel, it's the default. Buyers expect the same clarity, speed, and self-service they know from B2C, like you're shopping in your private time. And while we go deeper into buyer behavior in the next section, what matters here is this. Expectations have already moved on, whether suppliers are ready or not. Second, operational pressure. B2B organizations are under massive pressure to reduce cost to serve, handle more volume with fewer people, and eliminate manual work. Complexity is increasing, but headcount, budgets, and tolerance for inefficiency are not. Doing the same things manually, just faster, is no longer sustainable. And third, AI enters B2B at scale. AI is no longer limited to experiments or isolated tools. It's starting to influence how products are found, how prices are evaluated, how suppliers are compared, and how decisions are made, often without a human in the loop. That's why 2026 isn't about optimization. It's about whether your commerce setup is fundamentally ready for what's coming next. To make this less opinion-based and more fact-based, let's take a quick look at what the analysts are saying. If you look at Gartner, their message is very clear. By now, the vast majority of B2B interactions are digital, not just marketing or research, but real interactions across the buying journey, and they also point out something important. Digital commerce platforms are no longer just for customers. They are increasingly used by sales teams themselves as part of everyday selling. Forrester reinforces this from the buyer side. Buyers don't just want digital access. They expect self-guided, personalized, and increasingly autonomous experience. They want to move at their own pace and only involve sales when it actually adds value. And this shift is also generation-wise. Gen Z and millennials are now the dominant digital purchasers in B2B, bringing expectations shaped by consumer platforms into complex B2B environments. When you put these signals together, the conclusion is pretty clear. The market is moving rapidly towards digital-first, hybrid B2B buying. Digital and sales are no longer separate motions. They're becoming one connected journey. And companies that still treat them as separate channels are starting to feel real friction. So let's look more closely at what this new B2B buyer actually expects. If there is one message I want you to remember from this section, it's this. Not a better product, not a better price, it's a better experience. This is no longer a marketing statement, it's a buying decision. Today, 74% of B2B buyers say they are willing to switch suppliers for a better digital experience. That means experience has become a stronger differentiator than product or price in many buying situations. There are a few reasons behind this shift. First, digital native buyers are now the decision makers. They bring expectations shaped by consumer platforms into complex B2B environments. And they don't separate B2C and B2B experiences in their minds. Second, procurement is becoming automated and AI-assisted. Increasingly, it's not just human comparing suppliers, but systems evaluating speed, consistency, and reliability. Third, internal teams are under real pressure from rising costs, talent shortages, and growing complexity. Every manual exception, every clarification, every workaround hurts scalability. And finally, marketplaces expose everything. Pricing differences, missing availability, and unrealistic delivery promises. All of it becomes visible in real time. In this environment, experience isn't about design or UX polish. It's about clarity, predictability, and effortless across the entire buying journey. So first, every delay is visible. Buyers immediately see if prices load or update slowly, if availability is unclear. Second, every inconsistency is exposed. If pricing, for example, differs between a portal, sales quote, or marketplace, buyers notice that instantly. And they lose trust just as fast. But with inconsistency, also missing digital processes are a topic. And third, every manual workaround becomes a competitive disadvantage. If a buyer has to call, email, or wait for clarification because the system can't handle a standard scenario, they don't see it as B2B complexity, they see it as friction. At the same time, complexity hasn't gone away. There are still contracts, variants, approvals, compliance rules, and multi-user accounts. Buyers simply expect all of this to work digitally, without slowing them down. In other words, buyers accept complexity. What they no longer accept is inefficiency. At this point, I want to clear up a very common misunderstanding. When we talk about complex commerce, we're not talking about B2B only. Complexity exists on a spectrum, and it affects both B2C and B2B scenarios. On the left side, you see standardized B2C. This is what most people think of when they hear e-commerce: standard products, standardized use cases, small catalogs, and often single-brand domestic setups. But as soon as you move to the right, things change quickly, even in B2C. Regulations, unique requirements, complex products, advanced use cases, large catalogs, multi-brand setups, and distribution models all increase complexity. This is where complex B2C and B2B start to look very similar. The challenges are no longer about storefronts or UX, they're about data, rules, integrations, and operational execution. And that's why many of the patterns we're discussing today, so real-time data, automation, flexible architectures, are not B2B features. They are complex commerce capabilities. The takeaway for you here is, The more complex your business model becomes, the less relevant the B2C versus B2B distinction is, and the more important your underlying commerce foundation becomes. What's important to understand is that these are no longer nice to haves. This is the new baseline of what buyers expect. Again, buyers expect real-time pricing, not estimated prices, not request as a quote in the first place, but prices that they can trust at the moment of decision. They expect real-time stock and lead times, not best guesses, but reliable commitments they can plan their own operations around. They expect contact pricing to work flawlessly. Negotiated prices, volume tiers, and conditions must apply automatically across every channel without manual correction. And they expect multi-user accounts that reflect how companies actually buy, with roles, budgets, and approval workflows built in. None of this perceived as innovation anymore. It's simply the minimum requirement to participate in modern B2B buying. And the moment of these element breaks, trust breaks with it, and buyers start looking for alternatives. And this brings us to a clear paradox we still see in 2026. On the one hand, digital presence is nearly universal. Almost every B2B company today has a web shop, a portal, or some form of digital ordering. But on the other hand, true digital majority is still limited. Many organizations look digital on the surface, but underneath, core processes remain manual and fragmented. Pricing still needs clarification, availability still needs to be checked, and orders still trigger manual work. This gap between digital appearance and operational reality is exactly where friction is created, for buyers and also for your internal teams. If we summarize everything we discussed so far, these are the core buyer shifts we see for 2026. We're moving from sales first to digital first. Buyers want to explore, compare, and decide digital, and involve sales only when it adds real value. We're moving from relationship-driven decisions to fact-driven decisions. Trust still matters, but it's increasingly built on data, pricing consistency, availability, delivery reliability. And we're moving from linear journeys to hybrid buying. Buyers don't follow a straight line anymore. They switch fluidly between self-service and sales, depending on complexity and risks. And finally, we're moving from human lead procurement to AI-assisted procurement. Systems are increasingly involved in comparing suppliers, validating rules, and optimizing decisions, often faster and more consistently than people. None of these shifts are future predictions. They are already happening. And the real question for every organization is not if this applies, but whether your commerce setup is ready to support it. Now let's look at what leading B2B companies are already doing differently today. You noticed three clear patterns. First, digital-first sales models. Self-service handles repeat orders, reorders, and standard transactions. Sales only steps in when complexity, risk, or deal value justifies human expertise. And this is an important point. This is not about replacing sales. It's about elevating sales, moving teams away from transactional work and toward consultative, high-impact selling. Second, leaders unify journeys across all channels. Portals, sales-assisted orders, EDI, punch-out, and marketplaces are all run on the same pricing, availability, and rules. Why? Because buyers notice immediately when they don't. Inconsistent prices or lead times break trust faster than almost everything else. And third, leaders automate wherever possible. Approvals run on rules instead of email chains. Search and discovery are supported by AI to make large catalogs usable. Product data is enriched and maintained automatically instead of manually. The important takeaway here is this. None of these companies are winning because of a single feature. They're winning because they've connected self-service, sales, and operations into one system that scales without increasing manual effort. So everything we talked about so far, digital first sales, unified journeys, automation, only works if supported by the right foundation. All of this is powered by modern architectures, composable front ends, API first integrations, and cloud ready infrastructure that enables speed instead of slowing it down. I don't want to walk you through this diagram in detail here. What matters is the principle behind it. Leading companies don't build monolithic systems anymore. They build flexible ecosystems where front ends, commerce logic, and backend systems are cleanly decoupled by tightly connected through APIs. This allows them to move faster, integrate ERP, PIM, CRM, or OMS in real time, and adapt journeys without rewriting core logic. To make this more tangible, let me give you a quick real-world example. Interpneu is a B2B wholesaler for tires, wheels, and mounted wheels, a business with extremely high operational complexity. We're talking here about over 350,000 products, around 50,000 tires delivered every single day, and roughly 16 million price updates per day. What makes this interesting is that scenarios like this only work when pricing, availability, and ordering logic are fully automated and executed in real time across digital self-service and sales-assisted processes. Interpneu is a good example of how modern architecture enables complex commerce at scale without increasing manual effort or slowing down operations. Up to this point, we've talked a lot about what's changing in buyer behavior and expectations and in how leading companies operate. Now I want to make this very concrete. If you take all this down to the essentials, there are 3 capabilities your commerce setup must have to stay relevant by 2026. Not 3 features, not 3 trends, 3 foundational capabilities. The first capability is buyer-centric self-service. And this is where many B2B setups still fall short. Modern B2B buying is collaborative. It's rarely a single person clicking buy now. Buyers work in teams. They have roles and permissions. They work with quotes, budgets, and cost centers. They follow approval workflows. And they rely heavily on purchase lists and reorders to move fast. A buyer-centric platform has to support all of this natively, without forcing people into emails, spreadsheets, or phone calls. And just as important, all of this must happen with full transparency. Buyers need trust, the price they see, the availability, and delivery dates, as we said before. The moment that trust breaks, self-service collapses. And when self-service collapses, manual work returns immediately for sales, for service, and for operations. So buyer-centric self-service isn't about offering more options. It's about making complex buying clear, reliable, and effortless, and that at scale. Let me reframe this second capability slightly, because this is where a lot of misconceptions still exist. Automation and AI readiness is not primarily about having AI features. It's about whether your systems and your data are in a shape that AI can actually work with. AI doesn't fix broken structures. It amplifies whatever you give it. If your pricing rules live in spreadsheets, if availability is checked manually, or if workflows only exist in people's heads, then AI has nothing reliable to work with. What AI needs is clean, structured, and connected data. Prices, catalogs, customer accounts, transactions, rules, and permissions. All machine-readable and available in real time. That's why the commerce platform sits in the middle here. It turns business logic into executable routes and exposes data consistently through APIs across B2C stores, B2B portals, and sales tools. Only when your system landscape works like one coherent model can AI support search and discovery, assist with pricing and quoting, automate workflows, and eventually take one more autonomous tasks. So AI readiness doesn't start with models or prompts. It starts with data quality, system connectivity, and rule-based execution. Get that right, and AI becomes a competitive advantage. Get it wrong, and AI just adds complexity. The third capability is adaptability and scale. And its core, this is about one thing: speed. In today's market, speed is a competitive advantage. You need a platform that integrates cleanly, goes live fast, and scales across channels, regions, and complexity without slowing you down. The biggest enemy of speed is heavy custom code. Every hard-coded rule, every one-off integration, every special case makes future change slower, riskier, and more expensive. This is why composable API-driven platforms matter. They let you evolve in individual parts of your setup, front ends, integrations, workflows, without rebuilding everything every 2 years. Adaptability doesn't mean chaos. It means having a stable core and the freedom to change around it. And the companies that win in 2026 are not the ones with the most features, but the one that can adapt fast when the market changes. So far, we talked about what's changing and what capabilities are required to stay relevant. Now I want to bring you this down to earth. This final section is about what to do in the next 90 days. Not next year, not in a multi-year transformation program. Because the companies that move first don't win by doing everything at once. They win by starting small, acting fast, and building a momentum. The first step is surprisingly simple. Audit your buyer journey, not from an internal process perspective, but from the buyer's point of view. Look at where buyers hesitate, get stuck, or drop out, and where sales has to step in unnecessarily just to move things forward. In almost every organization, you will find 3 recurring friction points: pricing clarity, availability and lead times, and approvals or quoting. You don't need a massive research project for this. Talk to sales, look at your support tickets, and review where emails and calls spike. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to identify the top 3 moments where self-service breaks down, because that's where improvement creates immediate impact. The second step is to align sales and commerce, and this is often where progress gets blocked. In many organizations, digital and sales still compete internally. Digital is seen as a channel. Sales is seen as the owner of the customer. That mindset creates friction instead of speed. What works much better is mapping where digital can accelerate the sales process, so quoting, ordering, and onboarding, instead of replacing human interactions. Digital should remove routine work. Sales should focus on complexity, exceptions, and relationships. When both sides work on the same data, pricing logic, and workflows, you get faster quotes, cleaner handoffs, and fewer internal discussions about who owns the deal. Alignment doesn't mean choosing sides. It means designing one connected buying journey where digital and sales reinforce each together. The third step is where momentum really starts. Automate one workflow. Not everything, not the most complex edge case, one single repeatable process. This could be, for example, approvals, reorders, pricing checks, or simply quote validation. The key is repetition. If something happens dozens or hundreds of times per week, it's a perfect candidate for automation. And set a clear goal. Automate it within 4 to 6 weeks. This does 2 things. It immediately reduces manual effort, and it creates internal confidence that automation actually works. You don't need AI at this stage. Clear rules, clean data, and consistent workflows already deliver massive value. Automation is not about perfection. It's about proving that change is possible and worth it. The final step is to turn momentum into direction by building your 2026 roadmap. This doesn't have to be a 50-page strategy document. What matters is having a clear structure. A simple and effective way to do this is to organize your roadmap around 4 pillars. First, experience. So how buyers interact with your across self-service and sales-assisted journeys. Second, automation. Which workflows you remove from manual handling over time. Third, architecture. How flexible and adaptable your platform and integrations really are. And fourth, data. The quality, consistency, and real-time availability of the information everything else depends on. When these four pillars move together, process becomes predictable instead of reactive. This is where meaningful change begins, and where commerce turns from an operational tool into a strategic advantage. I want to close with a short perspective on why Shopware fits into everything we've discussed today. What modern B2B companies need is not an extreme, not an enormous out-of-the-box system, and not a completely custom-built project that's hard to maintain. What they need is the right balance: flexibility, extensibility, and out-of-the-box B2B capabilities. Shopware is designed exactly for this space. It gives you strong B2B capabilities out of the box: roles and permissions, pricing logic, workflows, self-service, while still allowing you to adapt and extend and integrate deeply where your business requires. You can move fast without locking yourself into heavy custom code, and you can scale complexity without losing control over your platform. In other words, Shopware is built to support complex commerce today and to stay adaptable for what's coming next. Let me give you one concrete example of how digital and sales come together in practice: our digital sales room. Many B2B companies struggle with the same challenges: low engagement in traditional online shopping, complex products that are hard to explain digitally, and geographic limitations that make in-person demos expensive or slow. Digital sales rooms address exactly this gap. Instead of sending PDFs, links, and follow-up emails, sales and buyers meet in one shared digital space. Sales can host live online product sessions, show customer-specific catalogs, and advise customers using real-time interaction data, seeing what buyers look at, where they hesitate, and what they compare. The result is much more focused conversations and much shorter path of decision. In practice, this leads to around 10% higher conversion rates. Buyers get a better experience with less travel and less friction. Sales teams see more upsell opportunities. And because advice is more targeted, returns and follow-up issues decrease. This is a good example of what modern B2B commerce looks like: not self-service or sales, but digital and sales working together in one flow. Another very practical example of this shift is the sales agent experience. Many B2B sales teams still struggle with the same challenges. Customer data is scattered across systems, online sales tools feel disconnected, and a lot of time is spent on administrative work instead of selling. The sales agent approach brings everything together in one place. Sales reps can order on behalf of the customer, see customer-specific pricing, contracts, and order history, and quickly present relevant product selections, all in a digital environment that's connected to the same data as self-service. This is why we see signals like this. 8 out of 10 B2B leaders prefer omnichannel sales models over traditional purely offline sales. The results are very tangible. Sales tasks are streamlined and handled online. Customer data is centralized instead of fragmented. And sales reps can support more customers without losing quality. The key point here is this: digital tools don't weaken sales relationships. They extend the reach and efficiency of sales teams by removing friction and giving them better context. A third concrete example I want to show is the rule and flow builder, because this is where automation becomes tangible for everyday teams. Many organizations struggle with the same challenges: too many manual tasks, campaigns that are hard to manage consistently, discounts and conditions that require constant coordination, and customer segmentation that live in spreadsheets. The result is simple: people spend time executing instead of improving. With the rule flow-based automation, teams can define flexible, no-code conditions without waiting for development. You can automate workflows like order processing, follow-up emails, approval steps, and customer segmentation, all driven by clear, reusable logic. In practice, this saves teams around 4 hours per week just by removing repetitive transactional work. And the impact goes beyond efficiency. Configurations can be changed without developers, Logic becomes consistent across channels, and manual tasks are replaced by workflows that actually drive conversation. This is a good example of what operational automation should look like. Not complex, not risky, but accessible, controlled, and immediately valuable. I want to close with a short look at where we are heading with B2B components at Shopware, because everything we discussed today is not static. Our focus as moving forward follows three clear directions. First, extending existing components and features. This is about reacting to real-world complexity, filling gaps, refining edge cases, and making proven capabilities usable in more scenarios. Things like deeper quote management, more structure at organization level, and advanced catalog configuration. Second, adding requested features. These are capabilities we consistently see across merchants and market. Document portals, store credit, bundling offers, and additional integrations. The goal here is simple. Solve more use cases out of the box without forcing custom project. And third, and most importantly, automating processes through an intelligent command center. This is where operational AI starts to matter. Purchase predictions and reporting, AI-supported buyer agents, and systems that help teams stay one step ahead in complex commerce environments. What's important here is the approach. This is not about jumping straight to autonomy. It's about building intelligence on top of clean data, stable workflows, and clear governance. So automation scales safely and predictable. In other words, we're not just adding features. We're evolving the platform toward intelligent, connected, and agent-ready B2B commerce, step by step. And now, another small poll in the chat, which I'd like to know from you. Do you see a real potential in using AI in your B2B commerce setup? So it would be great if the poll can, there it is. So again, do you see a real potential in using AI in your B2B commerce setup? Okay, so the winner right now is yes, but we're still exploring where it makes sense, which totally makes sense to me. But also interesting, some of you is already using it and productive. That's great. And also interesting that on the third place is no, AI isn't relevant for us right now, which might change in the future, but interesting that it's on the third place. So thank you very much for answering. Great. Okay. So before we wrap up and have the Q&A session, I want to leave you with one final resource. If today's session resonated with you and you want to go deeper, we've captured a lot of this thinking in our B2B e-commerce Compass 2026. It outlines 6 key action areas that are critical for building scalable, efficient, and future-ready B2B commerce, from operating models and data foundations to automation and agentic commerce. You can simply scan the QR code on the screen to download the white paper for free. It's designed as a practical guide, not theory, and it can be a good reference when you start shaping your own roadmap. And with that, I would switch now to the Q&A session. I have my monitor with the Q&A sessions here above, so let's see. Oh, there are already a lot. I will take it on the big screen to see all the questions here. Oh no, it seems more than it is. So there is a question. We are facing issues with short alphanumeric search terms not being found in Shopware 6. How will Shopware improve its search to deliver a better customer experience? Yeah, good question. 2 years ago, I was the responsible product manager for the search in Shopware 6 and also the advanced search. There are a lot of improvement tickets I know the team has in its backlog, and it's a focus area for that team during that year. I can't give you exactly the details on that right now because I'm not the responsible product manager for it anymore, but I know that the team is working on it. And they also collecting right now in user voice, I think, all the all the feedback that's there regarding the search. So good point. I know that they're working on, and maybe for the whole group, if you have something in mind that needs to be improved, we have our feedback portal where you can give your feedback or search for existing feedback, upvote it and comment it. So a good portal for a discussion with us and the teams. Another questions. I see that there. Okay. In the chat, there is no more. Otherwise, another short question to my colleague, which is in the call. Could we do another spontaneous poll on how the presentation was? Like, was it good for you? Informative? But there comes another question. Maybe you can do the poll while I'm answering the question. How will different payment methods help to be visible for new potential customers? For example, fast checkout from PayPal. Is this going to be integrated in an easy way to use and be unique in comparison to competitors? How will different payment methods help to be visible for new potential customers? I know that the checkout team is working closely right now with PayPal, also in terms of AI, and yes, also on better integration of PayPal. So if we take this example with the fast checkout, I mean, visible for new potential customers. On the one hand, on the storefront, you can advertise that's possible, right? If you meant that. Otherwise, you can also set up rules which payment methods for which customers are available. So if you want to have the fast checkout from PayPal, I think there is an integration already possible. But I know, again, the checkout team is working closely with PayPal. Team is also really in person with PayPal and developing stuff like this. So maybe we can, or you can write an email to me afterwards, and then we can have a closer look, or I can forward you to the colleague that's best for answering that. Okay, we have 2 more questions. So first, multi-language sales channels have been challenging. Most of the time, it's just duplicating or having to set an image in the same place 7 times instead of once, for example. Seeing how AI workflows often don't care about languages and deal with that stuff great. Is that something that Shopware is focusing on to improve? I know that this is a topic. I know that's also existing in user voice. The example of the you just named with the images. I know also that the team is working on that as well. So another team, not the checkout team, not the PayPal integration team, of course. But yeah, maybe you can have a look afterwards also in user voice, because I know for sure that there is feedback like this, and it also has some upvotes, and we are updating also the status in our feedback portal. So as soon as something is planned or actually in development, the status also there is changing, and you can have a look. And you can also give detailed feedback on the idea itself, if that helps for you. Another question, which B2B functionalities are available in Shopware out of the box without installing additional plugins, extensions, or third-party software? Specifically, does it support features like restricting login to business customers only and managing different price lists, pricing per customer, group, or company? So out of the box, maybe I can switch to another slide I had. So as you can see here, kind of, so out of the box, we have the B2B components, right? So if you are in the plan that has the B2B components in it, you get out of the box quick orders, yes, custom pricing, the rule flow builder, role management, shopping lists, quote management, and so on. So there are a lot of functionalities already there out of the box. And now my Teams is small. Maybe I can just quickly stop sharing, then I see it. That's good. Does it support features like restricted login? This is on our roadmap for this year. And managing different pricing lists, pricing per customer. So we have the customer-specific pricing. And we are launching, so plan is to have it launched in March, that we have the so-called price books, we call it internally, but we name individual pricing. With that, you can actually set up individual catalog prices per customers or customer group. And this feature is also not B2B only, it's also in B2C. So you can tag customers, for example, or if you have in the B2B context, an organization unit or whatever, you can actually set for this organization unit a specific product catalog. So also what's already possible, which products they see. And by March, we plan to launch that they also have individual pricing. Hopes that answers your question. Maybe also there is a hint, besides the feedback portal I mentioned now several times, we also have the public roadmap of Shopware. So I think if you simply type in the search Shopware roadmap, we have the official roadmap where you also can see what's currently in development, what's next, and what are future topics. And there is also the individual pricing mentioned that is currently in development. And it's nearly done. As I said, last testings, so in March it will be there. So thanks for the feedback and the poll. Nice to see. And I would wait 1 more minute for eventually questions or follow-up questions. I don't see anything coming in new, so we saved 10 minutes of time. So time for another bio break for your next meeting. With this being said, thanks for joining. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for taking actions in the polls. And just as a reminder, this was the start of the webinar series, the B2B Feature Forum. So looking out to discover more in detail stuff in the next sessions and register yourself for the upcoming sessions that are already planned. And with that, I say thank you. And if anything pops up after that, feel free to contact me via email, via LinkedIn. And thank you very much and have a nice day.